Welcome back to Chris and Retro. Today's video, I'm going to follow a popular topic for sure. I was going to try to avoid this one, but a couple things in here I thought were worth mentioning. I'm going to really cover this in two areas. So, one is I'm going to call out some hypocrisy, perhaps some hypocrisy with me too. So as this story unfolded, the words, what idiots, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to prove? All this type of stuff came out. And I think you probably already know where I'm going with this based on just what I said already. But there's that part. And I'm going to basically point out some hypocrisy in my own thinking with that first. And then the second thing I'm really going to dig into the more troubling piece of this. And, I think something that for you and I to kind of consider as we start looking at what is accomplishment and what matters to us. So the subject matter I'm going to talk about today is the sub, the whole submersible thing that was going on. And if you are not aware of the billionaire sub in Ocean Gate that blew up, what sounds like it imploded not that far along in its journey based on what they're finding out now on its way to see the Titanic. Another vessel, I actually saw a pretty clever TikTok that I didn't expect a serious TikTok from this individual. He's usually more comedic in his presentation, but he had a good point. They spent $250 million or $250,000 to go on a boat to go see a memorial to other dead rich people, which I thought was interesting. But I'm going to point out some hypocrisy in that thinking. So we'll get started right into the video here, and then I'll share, part B of my thoughts, and hopefully both of these things can at least be thought-provoking and maybe decision-making for you as well. So we will get started on this. So the first thing, I talk an awful lot about, in my personal life, I've talked about it a little bit on here, but one of the most impactful training sessions I've ever been through was at Johnson & Johnson. It was a leadership program. I was nominated for it. There was 30 of us in it. It was trained by a former Marine Corps officer, as well as a 5-star general, was a contributing educator in that whole thing, General Martin. And it was by far and away the most significant leadership program I've ever been in. There was, we were working on obstacles and things like that, but we were developing leadership, working through leadership problems and giving some guidance and construct in terms of how we should think about things, both in good times and bad, relative to how we implement strategy. It was really good. I loved it. Stuff has held with me since. But one of the things that's held with me most is the book and the underlying instructional theme. So the theme was about Ernest Shackleton and the Endurance. And so to give you an idea what was happening with Ernest Shackleton, if you don't know, famous explorer, and if you can see this on the screen, he was in a time when they were exploring the Antarctica in somewhat of a race. It was a bragging rights. And in fact, the ad for this, if you get a chance after this, go Google Ernest Shackleton's employment ad, and you'll see it's just a little piece in the paper basically saying you're going to meet certain peril if you come do this. But you'll have great honor, if they accomplish the goals. So for basically all the really bad things, in the end, you're going to come out as being the people that have honor for it. Well, what happened with the Ernest Shackleton voyage and the Endurance on the last one he did? He had several before, and this time he was really trying to push the needle. He took this ship that's in the picture right now, the Endurance, and took it to the Antarctica and took it further than other people had. And at that time, his big competitor was Scott. Scott was not able to accomplish as much as Ernest Shackleton did at that time. I'm not sure if he did throughout his career, but at that time he'd pushed the line as far as he possibly could, to the point that they got shipwrecked. So they were out on the ice for about 2 years, his entire crew. That ship, the Endurance, was crumbling in the ice as the ice built around him. I'm going to scroll down through here. There's the Endurance as it's shipwrecked. Now, it's a wooden ship. Obviously, in that time, there's no technology to fly in. There's no underwater subs going to drill up through the ice. There's no special forces going to come save them. They were on their own. Even if there were expeditions that tried to come get them, keep in mind, they stretched the line on capacity and capability to even get there. So here's some of the crew. And there's Ernest Shackleton. So Ernest Shackleton did this big mission. In recent years, they've actually found the Endurance in the bottom of the ocean, which is kind of cool. They found the wreckage of it, it's only been within the last few years. So Ernest Shackleton, this story was an underlying tone of this leadership program I had, because not one person died from his crew after 2 years on the ice. 2 years. The ship was completely crumbled under the ice. They found a way to move forward. Now, one of the principles I took away from that was the fact that progress is really important. And that's also turned into my recovery journey and some other things I've done in my life, is that progress really is an important milestone, and progress can be measured daily. And so that's one of the things I took away from this lesson. Anyway, going into it, Ernest was not somebody you would consider to be a nice person, honorable man, anything like that, but he did have some strong leadership capability in getting them out of the situation. Eventually, they would get off the ice. Everybody survived. So we make a big deal at Ernest Shackleton. That's all good things, and everybody's happy about Ernest Shackleton. And in fact, many call him a leader. There's many books. The main book is Shackleton's Way. If you get a chance, read it. There's other ones called Living on the Edge, which is a contemporary version of that talks about how to have those lessons applied in business. That's a good one. So anyway, that's Ernest Shackleton. So now we go to (1986). I was a kid in school. Kennedy Space Center.
Engine gimbal now underway. T-minus 15 seconds.
Roger was a school teacher, and a bunch of people, usually with these space shuttle launches when I was a kid, it was a big deal. Learning about who the astronauts were. Big deal going on in space. Everybody was thrilled about it. People line up watching this go off. I remember this little black and white TV, and a school I was in, and everybody was watching the space shuttle take off. It was a pretty big deal. And for those of you that's a younger audience and didn't realize what it was like to not have the internet readily accessible, when this was on the TV, you watched it, or you didn't get a chance to watch it. So our only coverage was watching this. For my conservative crew, sorry CNN's on the show. Good footage back before things got a little crazy with them. So we're watching this as young children. We're seeing running normally, space adventure, pushing the lines, going beyond what we knew to be to make great things happen. It wasn't the first attempt at space for sure, but this was our advanced technology, things that we had not done before. And now we're setting teachers.
So the 25th space shuttle mission is now on the way after more delays than NASA cares to count. This morning, it looked as though they were not going to be able to get off.
And just like that,
1 minute, 15 seconds.
It's gone. So in the first two cases, I don't know what was happening in the news back in Ernest Shackleton's day. I know what was going on in the news in 1986. There wasn't a single shred of those guys were stupid. It was noble. It was sponsored. It was sanctioned by the government to go behind this whole thing. I mean, it was adventure. It was stretching the lines. It was going forward. It's a big deal. They were trying to find new ways and new days. Space adventure at that point was something that was pretty significant to us. Now I'll switch over to one more. I'll get to my point. This is the minor point too. Sorry guys. I'm going on these rants lately. You can slap me in the chat. Now we're to today's adventure. A private owner taking a sub and having it implode shortly after launch. And everything about it is you're dumb, billionaire, Xbox controller, all this other stuff. And trust me, I'm not innocent in those comments. So it is curious to me that in some cases when peril is met, and certain circumstances, I think some of it's societal too. Back in the day when this type of tragedy would happen on adventure, people were behind the adventure and the nobility of going and stretching and exploring and finding new ways. And now we've become so used to exploring on Google that when somebody goes out and stretches it in a vehicle and dies doing it, it's a joke. Now, I'm going to pump the brakes before you guys all think that I'm sitting here slamming people for the jokes, because I'm not. My sense of humor is dark enough that a lot of that stuff I laugh at, and it's not because I hate them, or maybe, I don't know, maybe something's broken and my concern for the actuality of people dying isn't, I don't make that connection as like some people do. But in this case, these individuals died. Now, why would they go ahead and do that? And why would somebody else spend $250,000 to get on a tin can and go in the ocean and implode? With literally, as I've heard accounts of this whole thing, I mean, this thing had no business being where it was for any reason whatsoever. I wouldn't get in that in a bathtub, literally, because I'm claustrophobic. If you set that sucker up in the side yard and sealed me in, I would lose my mind. And now these guys are going down into some treacherous conditions in the ocean with an Xbox controller and some just really rudimentary technology sitting literally in a tube, and they died. So I want to just check the thinking. First of all, the first part of this video is just to look at the smaller issue here, and to say, we might want to calm down a little bit about ripping on these adventurers for doing what they did, because there's times in our history when we massively praise them. I'm not saying you should praise Ocean Gate. I think Ocean Gate sounds to me like it was just really dumb entertainment. I don't know what they were actually exploring. I know that the words were noble, but I'm not sure what they were actually trying to do to help humankind. I know that in many of the space shuttle missions, Ernest Shackleton, his story came to me because of the leadership he demonstrated to save people's lives after he got them into a mess. So would we be talking differently if the owner of Ocean Gate saved all these people through some magic way and they all got to the surface? I don't know. So we're also already starting with our conspiracy theory stuff that we do all the time now. So now we're saying that this they knew that they had died immediately, and they stretched the story out in the news because of the Hunter Biden stuff and because of synthetic meat now being available. I really don't know. I mean, that's not an area of expertise for me. I know it's something that people speculate about, and they make a compelling point sometimes, but I'm not sure that's the case. I'm bringing all that early stuff up to say, our framing on the whole thing is a little differently than what we've seen in the past. But here's the thing that's more important to me, and this goes really to the heart of the show. I think that when I look at billionaires buying tin cans and dying in oceans at a tune of $250,000 a ticket and dragging their kids on board, people with, by our standard in life, everything, are going to risk everything to go get in a tube in an ocean to see a crashed ship. That they take the technology to even find that sucker in the first place was, the high-end stuff that we use in the military. I mean, I don't have any experience in the background of it, except for the fact that it's absurd to think that something that generic should be used in the ocean that way, and yet a bunch of billionaires got in it and thought they could do it. So why? We look at that. We look at the owner of Amazon and his space shuttle. Look at Mark Zuckerberg, now wants a cage fight. He's a jiu-jitsu practitioner, and that's fine. But come on, man. He wants to get in a cage. He wants to fight in a cage. It's a different animal. Elon Musk, all the futuristic stuff he's doing. It's almost like he's trying to beat the next Tesla, who was another one, although he wasn't a billionaire. So we've got adventurers with no money, and then all of a sudden we've got all these guys out there with billions of dollars trying to do these extraordinary things. Now, on the darker side of it, you got billionaires like Jeffrey Epstein going out and doing whatever they want to do with ignoring the risk. So what is that all about? Well, a couple of things I look at. First of all, the obvious one, money apparently doesn't buy you happiness and satisfaction. Evidently, based on just recent examples and the ones I just cited alone, if you're a billionaire, you got there because you went for more and more and more, and you're never satisfied. At some point, there's no more to get, and then you got to start stretching into these angles, like climbing into a tuna fish can and diving in the ocean and blowing up. I'm being sarcastic about it. It's a little dishonest to not say I am actually being very facetious about it, because at some point it tells me this: if my striving in life is to get more financially, I will likely never be a billionaire. So that means I will always be striving for something that, when the gold standard of it, billionaire, doesn't have enough, that means that all the life I'm trying to work to gain that level is going to be a waste, because they got it and still it's not enough. So why would we look at that as success? The other side of it too looks at, for me, I see what we talk about in the show as high risk living. They feel insulated and godlike. So if you take a sub, or you take a space mission that could have killed, I keep thinking Bezos. I want to say Benzo or Bezos. I'm messing up his name here. But the founder of Amazon, if you take him and blow him up in space, is he a hero or an idiot? If you take Elon Musk and he gets in a battery powered flying car and the car blows up, is he a hero or an idiot? Jeffrey Epstein, scumbag. I'm not going to give you a choice on that. The bottom line is that these guys with this amount of money, they think that somehow that money and that prestige and that status and all of the people that say yes to them has created for them an environment that they can do anything they want to do. So if we strive for that as our endpoint, it seems hopeless and pointless, because really what we're doing, I think, is going full circle. It sounds to me like when you're in these high-powered positions, you're the most isolated, insulated person in the world. In fact, we read about it all the time. They say it's lonely at the top, heavy is the crown, all these things. It's because the higher you climb, the more isolated you get. So I see in these people that are prominent individuals, high profile people, I see behaviors like somebody that's struggling with addiction or mental health issues. I'm not saying they have that. I'm saying behaviors like it. What I mean by that is this, that if I'm struggling with mental health issues or addiction, isolation is going to be a problem for me. I want to isolate. I don't have a lot of options. So I'm going to try to find ways to satisfy that. For me, it might be substance use or pornography, or for manic behavior or taking high risks or all these things. Those are all the things you hear about people that are having mental health issues or substance use disorder issues. They don't have billions. They have the same problem though. So now we go all this time to try to dig out of that and make all this money. And these people go out and try to do all these things to be so highly accomplished. And in the end, to end up with the exact same thing. I need something to do with the isolation. I've accomplished everything. Now what? Well, I got an idea. Let me take a remote control that I can buy for $30 for a video game, climb in a tube with a toilet and a few people that pay me $250,000 and die moments after I drop into the ocean. I can't imagine for 1 minute that with all the risk they assessed, that was a risk they accounted for. So what do we do with that information? Well, first, all the stuff I shared with you clearly has two different paths. I'm going to try to bring it full circle. And if this is not if it's a little too clunky for you, I apologize. We'll remake the video, I guess. The first part is this is not that extraordinary. A lot of people have done it. It's how we frame it, how we view it. If we give them credibility going into it, they're a hero. If you're a teacher and you climb into a space shuttle and the space shuttle blows up, you're a hero. Like we saw in the Challenger. If you are a bunch of billionaires that spend $250,000 to climb in a tin can and drop in the ocean, you're an idiot. If you are Ernest Shackleton and you're going on another Antarctic adventure, you're, by all the people around him, thinking he's a jerk, he's mean, he's everything else, but it's adventure and I get accolades for it, so I'll go on that ship. And then, oh my gosh, we're going to die. And then he gets you out. And then all these years later, you're lauded as a leader in books that train executives for corporations. It's really about framing on that. But the second part of it really is recognizing this. Our accomplishments and the thing that we need to do in our life, our lives are not insulated by anything. Money, stamina, status, any of those things. Our lives need to be built around foundational things. Like, where's our spiritual content? What are we feeding that with? Do we have anything in the gas tank on that side of things? What are we doing to give back to humanity rather than feeding our own need for more and our own attention on ourselves? That's the problem I have with this sub, is that we spend a lot of time and a lot of attention, and a lot of money on something that sounds to me like it was just to, I'm not sure what they were trying to advance. There was a lot of noble words being used, but I'm not sure what they were actually trying to advance other than saying, look at me, I made my own sub. I did it my own way. And I went and saw the Titanic. And that didn't work out so well. So guys, hopefully this video is useful to you. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Please like, subscribe, comment. Content's a little bit off the subject of what we normally cover, but I am trying to stretch some of the things that we cover in here because I have a lot of interest in this life, and hopefully this is something that's interesting to you. So consider what you're striving for. If it's for money and prominence, clearly it's just that the more you get, the more you need, and the more you're going to have to really get creative to ever satisfy it, scratch that itch, as they say, the higher you go up through the ladder there. So recognize what you're striving for, where you find your peace and hope. Invest in somebody else's life today. That's probably the best use of your time. In the meantime, between now and the next time we talk, please stay out of trouble.